MVP award winners are announced. Should Juan Soto have won Rookie of the Year? I'm Dawson Wright, joined by Noah Wright, and this is the November 16th edition of Barreled Up.
I said, ooh, yeah, I don't know. Listen, I said I was born ready. I said I was born ready. On team, living good, yeah, I don't know. I've been ready, born ready, yeah. I said I was born ready. On team, living good, yeah, I don't know. I stay steady, born ready. I said I was born ready. I said I was born, I was born ready.
And Christian Yelich were announced the MVPs of the two leads. There isn't really much disagreement on that from anybody, but just the more you know. But there has been a little bit of a scuffle about the AL Rookie of the Year between Miguel Andujar and Shohei Ohtani. So, Noah, do you think that Shohei Ohtani should have won the AL Rookie of the Year?
Yes, absolutely. He didn't. I thought he had the better bat overall. He had the better slugging percentage. He had 22 home runs and I think 367 plate appearances. And then you can't ignore pitching 52 innings and having an ERA of like 3.13. I think I'm not 100% sure, but still, he pitched very, very good when in the time that he did get to play on the mound, and then he batted so great as their DH. I think it was automatic for him. I think it should have been automatic for him.
And there were a lot of complaints from Yankee fans that were comparing this to the Gary Sanchez situation.
That's so much different. So much different. You're saying Gary Sanchez, I think he barely made the cut for the minimum amount of plate appearances or at-bats or games played, whatever it was, to get to be able to be eligible for Rookie of the Year. He had I think he played 53
games. 53 games in 2016. Which is a lot less than Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani more than doubled that this year in games played.
Did he play 116, I think?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I believe it was 116. And a lot of people are also... I've seen a lot of people just bring up straight hitting. And the problem is, when you bring up straight hitting, you're ignoring something that's a big factor. You're actually ignoring two things. One of them would be Miguel Andujar's fielding, which
absolutely horrid.
Isn't great at all. And another thing you're ignoring is Ohtani's
WAR.
pitching. So I don't see, you can't just compare batting here. It's more than that.
Yeah, but a bunch of Yankee fans probably won't look at the defensive on Andujar, you know.
Yeah. So this isn't similar to the Gary Sanchez situation at all. It's very different. 53 games is not 116. And Gary Sanchez didn't pitch for the Yankees that year.
Gary Sanchez did not pitch, and we all know how he does with pass balls.
I'm pretty sure Gary Sanchez didn't pitch.
And we all know how good he is with pass balls.
Yeah. And Miguel Andujar, bad defense. So it doesn't add up. And, you know, a lot of things I've seen as well were people saying that, Miguel Andujar puts up numbers that, we've seen before, which is true.
You mean we haven't seen before?
That's absolutely true. Shohei Ohtani, on the other hand, is doing things that we haven't seen
since Babe Ruth,
like 100 years. Yeah. So, I mean, you could see why the writers would vote a certain way, and even then, I would still vote Ohtani.
I would too.
So, yeah, that race doesn't really add up for.
No.
Well, it does add up because Ohtani won, but
not for Andujar, though.
It doesn't make sense on the Yankee fan.
Part.
Miguel Andujar got snubbed side of it. I don't see it that way at all, especially when you factor in defense and pitching.
Yeah.
All right, so one thing that Noah and I do disagree on is the National League Rookie of the Year, which it was announced on, I believe, Tuesday. I believe it was Tuesday.
I think it was Tuesday, yeah.
Ronald Acuna Jr. was the winner of the award, and I believe that Juan Soto should have edged out Acuna barely. Now, I just want to say that I think Acuna is great. Both of them are deserving of the award. Just want to say that I don't really have a problem with Acuna winning, but there's still a case for Juan Soto. And there's also a case for Brian Anderson and Bader as well, who were only percentage points. They were percentage points behind Acuna in WAR. So,
but you have to think, Acuna played 111 games. He still had a higher WAR than Bader, who played 138 games. Anderson, who played 159 games. And both of them were very good rookies. I can't say that they weren't, and they put up decent seasons. But with Soto, I'll give you one thing. Soto I think has the better hitting profile. I think he's a better pure hitter. I think he has a little more power, but it's not best rookie hitter. It's best rookie of the year, and I think Acuna is the best well-rounded hitter. He's best well-rounded player. He's a very good base runner. He's much better than Soto with the fielding, and his bat might not be as good as Soto, but it's pretty good.
Okay, well, you mentioned Bader, and one thing I have to say about Bader is Bader played multiple positions, and he's one of the best base runners in the league. So, can't ignore that. But I don't think Bader and Anderson really compare to Soto and Acuna.
No.
So let's go ahead and focus in on Soto and Acuna a little bit. Soto led all rookies in WPA, which, for those of you who don't know, WPA is win probability added, which I think WPA I think it should be a bigger stat than WAR. Especially because WAR isn't a perfect stat.
No,
really.
WAR,
because if you were judging this just based off of WAR, Soto would finish, I think, 4th or 5th.
Yeah, because with his defense, I think he had negative 1.1 defensive WAR according to Baseball Reference, so that factors into it.
Yeah. So, just going based off of WAR, you can't really do that. But I think WPA is pretty good, and Soto, he also beat Acuna in OBP by 40 points, which is a lot.
Like I said, I think Soto is a better overall hitter, but I think Acuna is the better well-rounded rookie.
Okay, well, I would agree with you that he's more well-rounded. But the thing is, what do you value more? I think is what we're trying to get at here, because the things that Soto did to create runs and, let his team win games coming up in clutch situations, I think is more than Acuna. Which is
also,
I value that more than Acuna's defense, because what I'm trying to say here is I don't think Acuna's defense catches up with his hitting to make him catch up with Soto, just slightly.
Also, you're saying how he wasn't clutch. I mean, if you look at Acuna's numbers with runners in scoring position, runners
No,
on
I'm not
base,
saying he wasn't clutch. I'm not saying that. I never said that.
You're saying that he was, better, that Soto came up a lot in big-time situations, though, right?
I'm saying he did, yes.
So did Acuna. If you look at his numbers...
I'm not saying he didn't. I never said that.
So you were saying, though, that he was, coming up in clutch situations. I'm just saying that Acuna did it too, so...
I mean, yes, but still, Soto with the WPA and the OBP, I value that more than Acuna's defense.
You value that more with his defense and base running combined?
Yeah.
I kind of want to... Sometimes I weigh fielding a little bit more than other things, so, you have a point.
Yeah, because I just think, Acuna, great player, great season, he did incredible, especially in that second half. He did really great for that Braves team.
Yeah, I thought, in July, it's like, Soto's easily going to win this, but then Acuna has that amazing second half.
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about Soto up in July, and then when Acuna came up, a lot of people, kind of turned their attention to Acuna. You didn't really hear about Soto a lot, and especially after the whole Urania thing from the Marlins, that whole situation.
Yeah, that brought more attention to Acuna.
Yeah, you didn't really hear about Soto like that much at all. So
after July, there was not much Soto talk.
Yeah, so it's easy to see why the writers would vote for Acuna. I'm not, gonna lose sleep over it or anything, but I would just give a slight edge to Soto just because I think his hitting outweighs the production from Acuna's fielding. Slightly. It's close.
Do you think though it's enough for him to win the Rookie of the Year award though?
Yes, I think it would be.
You think it's enough?
Barely.
All right.
All right. Well, when we come back, we are going to be talking some Manager of the Year. We are going to be talking about the Bryce Harper trade that never took place against the Astros. And we are going to be talking some Yankees and Manny Machado. Welcome back, everybody. There was a little bit of discrepancy with AL Manager of the Year. A lot of people were saying that Cora should have won. You know, the Red Sox, I believe it was a record year for them in wins, franchise record for them. First year manager and all this stuff, but it turned out that Bob Melvin won, who is the manager for the A's, who won over 90 games and got a wild card spot when nobody really expected them to do.
I don't think a lot of people expect them even to be a 500 team, let alone any sort of playoff contender.
Yeah, no, I would say like around 500 maybe at the start of the year. I was saying
maybe.
Now we know they added some players,
yeah,
via trades, right? We all know that. But what Bob Melvin did for this A's team is
amazing.
It's amazing, yes. This A's team that opening day, no expectations, and then at the end of the year, they're playing in New York for a wild card spot to go play the Boston Red Sox in the playoffs.
I just found I had the voting up. Well, I had the voting up. They won 97 games. They were 3 wins from 100 games, from winning 100.
Wow. I believed they were more than 95, but I didn't want to say anything in case I wasn't sure. But I understand where a lot of people on Cora's side are coming from. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, 100 games isn't easy, but
yeah,
you
won
had
the most games.
You had such a core though with Benintendi, Betts. Then you added Martinez, and you can't forget about Bogarts and who else? Then they added Pierce, which was a big help to that. Was a big help to that lineup, even from the regular season into the postseason. We know how good he did. That team was set up for success, and they were projected to already win 95 or more games, and 108. It's not easy, but it's not as much overperformance as the A's winning almost 100 games when they weren't even supposed to be any sort of wild card contender, let alone it was even questionable if they'd even be a 500 team.
Red Sox were loaded, highest payroll this year by a lot. A's at opening day had the lowest payroll.
They pulled a Moneyball 2.0.
I know. They had the lowest payroll out of anyone, including teams like the Royals or the Marlins or the Orioles, who were horrendous.
Orioles' payroll is only higher because of Chris Davis's contract.
I've also seen some people talk about Cash, who's the manager for the Rays, and I might almost go Cash over Cora too. Maybe.
Wow. That's a tough one for me because I think both managers did so well, but I think I only give it to Melvin because he got them to the playoffs.
Yeah, like all the managers totally deserving of the award. AL, NL, doesn't matter. All of them great seasons. Cora was a first-year manager, which, you might be like, it's not easy to go in and manage the Boston Red Sox. That's not what we're saying.
The World Series, postseason doesn't count, but
But it's a lot easier to manage a team with the highest payroll and a bunch of superstars on it.
Good players.
Including
the AL MVP now.
A team like the A's who have, Chris Davis?
Chris Davis, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a few,
Chris
then
Davis.
you had Matt Chapman's breakout. Then you had the other, I think it was Matt Chapman. I know that they have another player named Chapman at first base. Matt Olson at first base, who had a solid year. It seemed like a lot of players on that team overperformed too.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Astros in last year, a little bit. with all these players overperforming. Like the Astros had players hitting ninth that were hitting like 300 last year. It was absolutely insane. But yeah, I would go Melvin first, probably Cora second, just because
over Cash.
Yeah, probably.
Really over Cash? I mean, 90 wins is not easy, especially.
I know it's not easy, but neither is 108. But as the walking into Boston and managing a team. Yeah. It's Boston. That's like New York, but like, it's just like it's like there with New York in fan level, right?
Yeah.
And we know how the Boston press is. We saw it with David Price a few years ago. So yeah, I would probably put Cora second over Cash, just because Cora made the playoffs, and yeah, Rays are close, but all right.
I will put Cash second, but
yeah, all right.
It's close.
There was a trade that was reported to happen at the non-waiver trade deadline that would have sent Bryce Harper to the Houston Astros, which is an interesting idea, but it didn't work out because guess what? The owners said no. Nationals ownership said no, which is what I said happened, but just saying, I said it in July. I was like, ownership is going to say no. And this is at the non-waiver trade deadline, which is the 31st deadline. So, Nationals ownership said no, which I can see why they would say no.
From a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. From a business standpoint, this trade doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if, just in case Bryce Harper resigns. One, things we know now. Bryce Harper will not re-sign with the Nationals. Things we knew in July. Bryce Harper will not re-sign with the Nationals. Probably. Because, a lot of people said it in July. We could all say it. We didn't.
Didn't they try and offer him an outrageous price?
Yeah, and he said no. He wanted to go to free agency. Who doesn't want to go to free agency?
What was the amount? What did they offer him? I think it was like 10, 12 years, $300 million.
Too much. Lifetime contract. I don't know, but so it was rumored that Garrett Stubbs, who is a catcher for the Astros, really good player. Well, he's a catcher in their organization, but it was rumored that he was a part of the deal, and which does make this a little interesting. But Noah, do you think this trade from a baseball only perspective would be good for the Washington Nationals?
From a baseball perspective, no, because you're taking away a player that's very popular. He gets fans to come to games. But if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, which is a little different, I think it would have made sense. But just looking at it from a baseball perspective, I don't think it would have been a great idea.
I think you might have mixed.
Unless I'm flipping around by accident.
Yeah, I think you might have mixed those up a little bit. From business perspective, they would have lost money, probably.
Okay, so from a baseball perspective, this trade probably would have been a good idea for them, because I don't think they would have gotten... he's on the last year of his deal. He had a bad second half. Even with this good pickup or he had a bad first half, even with his production picking up in the second half, I don't think they were going to get like anything amazing out of Harper. Amazing out of Harper at the August deadline going into September. But I think Miles Straw, that's not bad what you're getting from the Astros for a player that's on the last year of his deal. And it was like a rental, a month rental into the playoffs.
Yeah, it was Stubbs, not Straw. Stubbs.
Yeah.
Stubbs. Yeah, the catcher. But I think this deal on the other hand, the Astros, it makes sense a little bit, Why not? Let's try and get as many championships, as possible. But also, it's kind of like you're trading away a guy who I think is going to be their catcher this year. With McCann being old, Gaddis doesn't really catch anymore. McCann's a free agent too, so it's not...
You also got Stassi's also there, but he's very much of just one of those glove first kind of catchers.
Yeah, Stassi was there. He played a little bit earlier in the year, but not very much. The other guy they had was Tim Fedorovich. You have Maldonado, which, I don't know.
Glove first.
Maldonado wasn't very good.
He was but he was one Gold Glove level defense. So
I know, but I think Garrett Stubbs is a better catcher than Martin Maldonado.
Defensively, even defensively.
Overall.
What do you think of his defense? How's his defense? I've never watched him. I heard that his defense is good by looking on MLB.com and on their prospect rankings on the Astros. But I know you've watched him in AAA, so how's he defensively just from you watching him?
Yeah, okay. Let me describe Garrett Stubbs to a little bit the best I can. So I saw Garrett Stubbs play a complete season in AAA. I actually have a ball on my desk that's signed by him. Shout out to him. But he was great. He's really tiny. I don't know. He's not that, for a catcher, Most catchers we see are these big dudes like Gary Sanchez and, guys like that. But he's like a Tony Kemp. For those of you who know Tony Kemp, he's like Tony Kemp, but he's a catcher. And he's a little taller than Tony Kemp. But speed, pretty good speed. Defense, really solid. He's a contact hitter. I believe he hit... I
have it up right now. He hit .310 batting average.
Well, how many homers did he have?
Only 4.
Yeah, I
knew it was like 3 or 4. He did have a
4.
.382 on base percentage,
but
which
he
is
was robbed
really
of one
good.
on opening day that was ruled foul. Just want to say he should have 5. Okay, but yeah, Garrett Stubbs, he's great. He's he's not like a
sounds like a less powerful JT Realmuto.
Yeah, he's not a super old prospect. The concern with him was that he's too small to play a full season or something. He didn't really get hurt at all during the season. He played most of the games until they called up a dude in AA near the end of the year. But yeah, Garrett Stubbs, he's a really good player.
He caught 40 on baseball references. It says he caught 45% of runners trying to steal on, which is really good.
Yeah, he has a cannon, and he just throws dots every time. And yeah, Garrett Stubbs, really good. But I don't see this trade making a lot of sense for the Astros long term because you knew they weren't going to re-sign Bryce Harper.
Yeah,
that wasn't going to happen unless he really fell in love with Houston, which, he was in Washington for super long, and he just declined 10 years, $300 million from them. But I don't think it's worth it for half a season at Harper. And, the thing is, we don't know what Harper would have done, against Boston. We don't know if the Cleveland series would have been different in some way. There's so many factors that go into this. We don't know how it would have lined up. They could have gotten Harper and then been trash for the rest of the season and missed the playoffs.
Well, we just will never know.
Yeah. Would that have happened? Probably not, but there's no way to tell what actually would have. But what we can tell is Harper probably would not have re-signed with Houston, which that's a big loss. And coming up, you have Correa, Bregman, Lance McCullers when he comes back from Tommy John.
Garrett Cole's going to hit free agency next year.
Yeah, Garrett Cole.
You're going to have a bunch of players that you're going to have to look at and see, well, what are we going to do? Garrett Cole. Their rotation is kind of thin right now that Morton's on. Morton's a free agent. Keuchel's a free agent. We just talked about that they lost McCullers. Their
free agency for Springer and Verlander in a few years. I think Verlander's after this year.
Verlander and Cole go on free agency at the same time, which is not good.
Yeah, they're gonna lose a few guys. We might even see Justin Verlander go back to Detroit if he doesn't stay in Houston.
A season or two, just as a farewell.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. See him play in Detroit for one more year. He's a dad now. He might retire. You never know, but. For Houston long term, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Even if they were be able to re-sign him, then they would have no chance of keeping Bregman, Correa, Springer.
Yeah,
no chance.
Something I'm sure that they thought about when doing that. If they
well
had
apparently the deal was set, and then ownership was just like, no, this isn't happening. And it's weird because we heard a lot of like, oh, Indians, Dodgers. We didn't really hear Astros at the deadline at all.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we don't know how far they got on the trade.
You think
we
it was
just
like,
do know they had something
you think
in
it was
place.
like they were working up to it, and then like they didn't really say anything until like last day of the deadline. They started doing stuff.
Yeah. Last day they were like, oh, Harper's being traded and blah 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 blah, and then the ownership, no, this isn't happening. We're not doing this. We like money. And I just wanted to say, I've seen a few tweets from some people, saying, oh, Bryce Harper's this big superstar. He goes everywhere and sells out stadiums. Look at Nationals Park at the end of the year. Look at the attendance numbers.
Wasn't very good, was
Watch
it?
I vividly remember this. It was like a Tuesday game, and people were like, oh, it's a Tuesday. I don't care. It's Harper. He sells out stadiums, right? That's what you just said. It was a Tuesday game in Nationals Park. I was watching highlights on MLB Central, and then it's just it was so empty. It looked like Marlins Park. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like, Marlins Park. And I was like, huh, wow. What a superstar. I mean, he is a superstar, but one guy doesn't sell out a stadium every night.
Yeah. You have to have good playing ability, and you have to have a good, you have to be playing good. And the Nationals missed the playoffs.
Look at the Angels' attendance. Okay, this year I get it. Shohei Ohtani, two-way superstar, whatever. Shohei Ohtani gave a boost, but he didn't sell out. Albert Pujols, this guy was a superstar. 2 years after the contract, Angels Stadium empty, pretty much. On, I don't know, pick a game, unless it's like their debut game or something. But it just, these superstars, they're valued so high, and they get paid $30 million a year. And then it's like, why?
So really,
why is Giancarlo Stanton being paid until 2029?
Giancarlo Stanton, that's a very, very
that is mental. And we are going to be talking about these big time contracts. Well, specifically Manny Machado, who has been linked to the Yankees, next. Alright, we are back, and there have been multiple reports over the past few weeks that Manny Machado has been linked to the Yankees. Manny Machado is signing with the Yankees, all this stuff. One, Machado is not signing yet, but two, he has been linked to the Yankees multiple times ever since last year with that whole liking the Instagram post of him in a Yankees uniform thing came out, and his nephew being like, oh, I want to see him play for the Yankees. So him and the Yankees, or at least Machado seems to like the Yankees at least a little bit. But do you think Machado would be a fit for the New York Yankees?
No, he's asking for like 10 years, obviously, for an outrageous amount. Then, you gotta think of future roster moves, You have, what are you gonna do when Didi comes back from his surgery, Next year, you gotta put him somewhere. Then what are you gonna do with Machado? You gotta put him at third base? Well, then where are you gonna put Andujar? You're gonna slide him over to first. Well, if you already have like a good first baseman you want to rely on next year, it's kind of confusing with that.
Which they should have.
But then with the contract, you're paying this guy $25-30 million a year, and then you also have the Stanton contract. What happens if Gary Sanchez comes back and you want to extend him, or when he eventually gets to arbitration and free agency? What happens when Judge gets up there and gets into arbitration and free agency? What happens when Didi and Hicks get up there and are about to hit free agency? I don't think the Yankees should pursue a deal with him at all.
Yeah, I think it closes too many doors for them. And the one thing the Yankees don't need right now is another Stanton-type contract, which is what it's looking like Harper and Machado are going to get for
two
whatever
contracts
team
like that on one team. It's going to screw your future up so much.
Yeah, I know it's the Yankees. Everyone's like, oh, it's the Yankees. They could just pay it off. There's a reason teams don't like the luxury tax.
There's a luxury tax.
I know. And the Dodgers, teams like, Dodgers and Yankees, Red Sox, whatever, they just throw money at everything, right? The Dodgers have been told by their ownership, hey,
don't spend as much. There's a luxury tax.
Don't go over the luxury tax for the next 4 years. So, that's a little bit of constraint, which could happen to the Yankees. I don't know, if you don't know what's going to happen with ownership. I mean, it's the Yankees, so they'll probably be fine, I'm going to assume. But still, it's a lot of money for a value that you're not going to get back for one specific player. Ever since when the Red Sox won the World Series in 2013, they did the deal where they would just sign players to quick 1 and 2 year contracts, this is the new way of doing it. Everyone thought, this is the new way teams are going to go about things, because guess what? It's smart. It's a lot smarter to get someone for higher annual value for a 1 to 2 year deal.
Wait, you said after the 2013 World Series,
paying them $30 million to hit 220 when they're 40 years old.
You're saying with the Red Sox after 2013, right? That they did that. Well,
yeah,
and then they had some of those contracts like Pablo Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez that they did good for like the first year or two of that. They were like, I think Hanley.
I don't think Sandoval was ever good.
Hanley had one really good season, and then that contract, we know he got released. Sandoval,
he's getting paid to play on the Giants. That's what happened.
Oh, what was that one line from Moneyball? You're getting paid to play. You're paying them to play against them.
Yeah, the Yankees are paying you to play against them. That's how bad they think you are.
And then have Sandoval, who we just said about never did good with that contract.
The Stanton contract, ever since it was signed,
has been bad.
Looked terrible. It looked terrible then. Guess what?
Bad now.
It looked terrible when the Yankees traded for him,
and it still looks terrible now.
And it looks worse now. It looks worse.
Yeah.
He plays in Yankee Stadium, but the numbers are worse.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, well, he's coming back off an NL MVP year. He just needs to relax. I'm sure that's a little bit. He needs to relax.
He's a great hitter. There's no doubt that he's a great hitter. But, $30 million a year for a DH who will probably eventually get moved to first base. You got an Albert Pujols-sized contract. And while he might keep up Albert Pujols' prime numbers, eventually that's going to go down.
It's worse than Albert Pujols' contract, I think.
Why you say that?
2029, that's why. That's why I say that. 2029. Do you know how far that is from now?
That's 11 years. I'll be like almost 30 by the time that contract's over.
Yeah. Why teams do this doesn't make sense. I made a whole video on it. Go check it out if you haven't yet.
All right, Machado, he has injury history before that. He missed 2014, or I think 2014, most of that year. I think he missed a little bit of the 2015 year after that Achilles. That might, or you see that some leg injury. That might be a freak thing, but still injury history. And then you have his questionable attitude the last year or so.
I knew we were going to get to that at some point. So we might as well just talk about it now. All right. Okay. Manny Machado's attitude, I think, is the worst in baseball that we've seen in a long time.
I didn't like his attitude. It got a lot. I think it got a lot worse during the playoffs.
Yeah, it got worse as soon as he went to the Dodgers. We've seen him bad before. Remember the whole Donaldson thing? He had that beef with Ventura. It's immaturity. How old's Machado? 26?
26, 27?
Yeah.
I think something around there.
How do you play the game where you're that desperate to win? I get it. It's the playoffs. But you really felt the need to go for Aguilar's ankle,
try and kick his and try and drag his foot off the bag.
No, you don't do that. Okay, if you play the game that way, you're trying to injure people. Well, I don't think he was trying to injure him.
But it was kind of,
who knows?
Questionably
but just
dirty.
Being that shallow to win. I understand it's the playoffs. You know what you do? You know what you do in the playoffs? You run it out, Manny. Okay? Instead of trying to, injure people by, just stepping on their foot. How about you run the ball out? There was a ball in the World Series. He hit it off the wall and got a single off it because he thought it was a homer and he wanted to pimp it. He thought it was a homer and he wanted to pimp it, so he's like, boom, looks up, and he just, he like bat flips, he's like jogging to first base, and then he gets a single out of it. It's the World Series.
That's
what are you doing? Oh no, let me just take out someone with a slide. Like, you know what the rules are. He stretched out trying to grab somebody. He stretched out trying to grab him.
And then he's gonna ask for $300 million in free agency and about $30 million.
And then out of all the guys to give $300 million, you're gonna give it to this guy? This guy out of anybody, who's shown this superstar who hit fifth and went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts in an elimination game in the World Series. What a superstar, am I right? And he injures people to try and what
about the whole shortstop
really
thing?
Shallow.
Like back in February, I think, around there.
What?
The shortstop thing?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that too. Why don't we? So, Manny Machado basically forced his way on the Orioles to play shortstop. Because the Orioles knew they can't tell Manny Machado no, because the Orioles were trying to re-sign him, and that was a great voice crack right there. I know someone was gonna mention it, so I got there before you. See, Manny Machado gets me riled up, but Manny Machado forced his way to play shortstop, even though they already had Tim Beckham on the team. Good shortstop. Manny Machado, really good third baseman, right?
Not as good of a shortstop.
But he's like, no, I'm Manny Machado. I'm a shortstop. That's what I do. So, I don't care what the team needs are. And remember, the Orioles were trying to win at the start of the year. So, he says, I don't care what the team needs are. I'm Manny Machado. I want to play shortstop. So, the Orioles put him at short. They put Tim Beckham at third. Guess what? Tim Beckham is worse at third. Manny Machado is worse at shortstop. Oh, but I'm Manny Machado. I'm a shortstop.
Now, I'm just gonna say this. This is just a theory. I have no proof of this, but Manny Machado's defensive numbers at shortstop got really good after he got moved to the Dodgers. You think he tried a lot harder at shortstop after he got moved to a winning team? It would kind of be attitude-y like him, but it's just a theory.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know what happened with that situation. It might have been something with defensive shifts. I don't, we'd have to look into that a little bit more. But again, out of all the guys to give $300 million,
and all the teams to sign someone to $300 million,
he's not the superstar player I would want, hitting fifth in the World Series and goes 0 for 4 and strikes out to end the game, and then pimps and then shows his own personality off more. We talked about it. We love players showing personality. I love players bat flipping. That's great. But dude, it's the World Series. The ball hit off the wall, and you're there jogging and doing a bat flip. That's different. If it's a no-doubter,
that's different than a regular season game in the middle of the year.
Jose Bautista it for all I care. But the ball hit off the wall. You could have had an extra base. It's the World Series.
I think if the outfielders aren't stop running toward the wall, you have no right to do that in the World Series especially.
Just play. Oh, I'm not Johnny Hustle. All right, well then, not Johnny Hustle. You're not getting $300 million. Then
I would not. That's what I would say. I do not want a player who says something like that. I think
massive contracts like this are terrible anyway, unless it's like a key player that's been with a franchise. Like, I don't think the Posey deal is terrible. Could be better, but it's not horrible. That franchise type player, like the Joe Mauer deal. I mean, it wasn't great.
But it wasn't bad for the team. He still was.
Yeah, it's Joe Mauer, Twins legend, stuff like that. This is different because this is free agency, and this is a guy who hasn't shown allegiance to his team, right? With the whole shortstop situation, where he says, I want to play shortstop. And the Orioles tried to do that so they could try and re-sign him, which he wasn't going to accept.
I was a little bit defending of Machado when he said that. I was like, oh, maybe he just wants to broaden his market a little bit. But his attitude it's so hard.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And, the thing is with the Yankees, what's funny is earlier in the year, they had a lack of hustle issue. With Manny Machado, that's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't want to get too heated on the topic, even though I kind of already did. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the first ever edition of Barreled Up. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like. Saturday Night Shutout will be releasing tomorrow night. Be sure to check that out. I'm hosting that show. And then we will have another Barreled Up on Monday, Bros Talk on Tuesday. All right, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Listen, I said I was born